Open up your mind. Let the Oddcast inside.
Welcome, everyone. Tonight on the Oddcast, we're joined by one of the most recognizable voices in the modern Flat Earth movement. He is the creator of the widely viewed Flat Earth Clues series on YouTube, a body of work that has helped bring the Flat Earth conversation into the mainstream space. His videos, interviews, lectures, and public appearances have sparked criticism, curiosity, and debate around the world. He is also the author of books available through platforms like Amazon and Audible, such as Flat Earth Clues, The Sky's the Limit, Flat Earth Clues, End of the World, and Empty Shelves, Organizing Your Corner of an American Apocalypse. He has appeared on numerous podcasts, radio, and talk shows, and many people will recognize him from the award-winning documentary Behind the Curve, which is featured on platforms such as Amazon, Netflix, and Apple TV. Whether you agree with him, disagree with him, or are simply curious about the conversation, he has become a major figure in one of the most debated alternative research topics of our time. Please welcome back to the Oddcast, Mark Sargent.
Wow, thank you. That was one of the better intros I've ever gotten.
All right.
I appreciate it. Seriously, and it was mostly accurate. So that's fantastic.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm sorry for the misinformation if there was any.
No. Well, I mean, I don't know if I call the Netflix thing award-winning, but it was definitely groundbreaking.
It was groundbreaking, yeah.
When we were in the film festivals, we never cracked the award platforms, but we were always in it. We were always in the running because it was so new. Yeah, film festivals have been around for a long time, and they were like, wait a minute, there's a Flat Earth film out there. And but yeah, it gained, let's put it this way. I don't care how many awards it won because it got way more traction than almost every other documentary that was out that year. So all you guys that didn't vote for us for the awards, you can suck it.
Beautiful. All right, well, I want to dive right into it, Mark. It's obviously you're known for the Flat Earth movement, but yeah. I would like to know what first pulled you into researching the Flat Earth, and was there one specific moment where you thought, I need to look deeper into this? Like, what was the light shining on you moment?
Yeah, it was the epiphany. The epiphany never really came. What it was you guys know some of this already, which was I was conspiracy bored. I'd never gotten married or had kids. I was in my 40s and I had a ton of free time on my hands, tons and tons. Looked into every conspiracy I'd ever wanted to look into, had an opinion on every conspiracy you could think of. Seriously, I don't think there's a conspiracy you can bring up and be like, never heard of it. And I still didn't want to look at Flat Earth because it's so ridiculous. And that kind of bothered me. It's like, wait, why haven't I looked at this damn thing? And so I was on my bucket list, right? I'll just shoot it down in a weekend. And that weekend turned into weeks, which turned into months. And then 9 months later, I came to this realization that I couldn't prove the globe in a court of law anymore. I could not do it. And that bugged me to no end because it's like, okay, I'm consider myself a very creative problem solver, but this was bothering me. So I decided to make a series of videos, and I had never made videos on my channel before, and put it out on the internet with all my contact information because I wanted people to get a hold of me. And I made it Creative Commons license, if you guys know what that is, meaning that anyone can take my videos and have fun with it. You want to make money off of it? Go ahead. People made thousands of dollars off my videos.
Oh, I bet.
And put it in other channels because they were mashing them up together. People were making compilations. Because when I first started to chat, if you guys know, when you start your YouTube channel, you can't make multiple hour videos. Well, at least you couldn't at one time. So I had to limit my videos. I think they were less than 15 minutes long. So when I did that, that's when things started. I was holding my breath. It's like, okay, what academic is going to call me up in the middle of the night and say, okay, you forgot to carry the 2, you forgot this, you forgot that, something little that I missed. That's what I was kind of thinking. It's like, I missed something. But I treat it like if you've ever taken a test and when you were turning it in, you thought you aced it, but there's something in the back of your head going, oh, did I ace it? I'm not positive if I aced it. And I waited for months and months, and there was all these people that were calling me just out of the blue, which was subject matter experts and media people and treating flat Earth like it was this brand new thing, like it was sliced bread. And that's how I got into it. The epiphany moment came in early February 2015, where I just woke up in the middle of the night, and the scales had tipped to where I had thought, okay, I'm not going to argue from the globe side anymore. I'm going to argue from the flat side. And that's what it was. And what was amazing, there really was kind of a revelation moment where I had all these paragraphs of dialogue in my head, and I woke up, in the middle of the night and took a shower and shaved and started my day super early, and just started typing some of the easiest writing I've ever done. And when I was done, you remember Forrest Gump, when he was running back and forth across the country. That's what it felt like. It's like, well, I'm done typing it, might as well narrate it. Right. And it's like, well, right. I just done narrating it. Might as well add slides to it, turn it into a video. And then what do you do? And then I started that process the next day. People don't remember, but I made the first 6 clues in 7 days. And that was a lot for me, considering I didn't know anything about video editing. I'm still not great at it, but I put that stuff out there. So sorry, and kind of a long-winded answer, but that's how it all transpired. And here we are 11 years later.
Yeah, absolutely. When you started making the Flat Earth Clue series, did you expect it to gain the attention that it did, or was it more of right? Yeah.
No, not a chance in hell. But I knew there was something. There was any producer will tell you do not know it's going to resonate with the public, which is why so many sequels are made from things, because you don't know. Once it resonates, it's like, oh no, we're going to keep making sequels until we can't make money anymore. And even then, we may revive it. Look at Jurassic Park, great example.
Right. Yeah. Number 19.
Yeah, it's like we'll just keep making those. And Fast and the Furious, I don't even know what number that's up to.
Mark, I wanted to ask you a question. To me, it almost has become kind of a First Amendment topic, almost, where it seems like, anytime it's like people either believe you have the right to believe whatever you want and say whatever you want, or they don't.
Right.
It seems like this issue one of the reasons that it's been pulling me into it is because of how suppressed it is.
Yeah.
And that vacuum makes me want to pay more attention to it. But it seems like it's the only thing outside of like mainstream religious topics that gets as much heat, and people are so intolerant of the topic just right out of the gate. And I know it's something we've all talked about before, but it seems like lately you go on YouTube and there's literally nothing positive. There's no pro video. There's no conversation out there other than flat earther destroyed, and it's all negative. It's all defamatory.
There's a lot of positive stuff out there, but the big channels, they don't want to rock the boat. And so again, there's so many big media influencers. We're talking about, generally YouTube channels. And that is, if you've got a couple million subs and they live and die by their chat rooms. And if the chat room keeps leaning, it's like, oh, flat earth is silly, flat earth is ridiculous. If you keep seeing waves and waves of that, what are you going to do? It's my second rule of media, which is give the people what they want.
Right.
And if your chat room says they want you to hate flat earth, that's what you're going to do. Now, there's some that'll try to go neutral, and then you have influencers that watch other influencers. It's kind of a macro thing. If you see enough influencers talk about it neutral, you're going to lean more neutral. But if your chat room wants blood, attacking, which is fine. I don't mind that, because metrics are metrics. It doesn't matter. The producer told me years and years ago, it doesn't matter whether you love or hate a topic, as long as you're engaged with the topic, as long as you're talking about it. That's what's important. There are all sorts of famous topics and people out there that people, you've heard the term hate watch. Use I don't know, pretty much anybody from the cast of Jersey Shore, but let's just pick on Snooki, for example, right? Everyone hates her. But like a good villain, if there was a villain on that show, people love to watch the train wreck that she is.
Sure.
And it's like, she gains range. Hell, she makes a lot of money doing that, which is fantastic. So when anyone that attacks, I wish honestly there were more channels that were going after us. But two things make me really excited about it, which is one, just about every big channel you can think of has discussed flat Earth in one way or the other. Everybody has talked to everybody from, a tiny little channel to freaking Joe Rogan to everybody, mainstream, everybody in between has talked about it. But the other part is they're compelled to talk about it because of the ratings. That is the media rules, which have never changed, which is if people are talking about it, we need to talk, get on that gold rush.
Right.
And for me, again, it's no different than shooting wooden arrows into a bonfire, which is okay. It looks from a distance like you're doing something there, but all you're doing is adding wood to the fire. That's all. You're just making it bigger by talking about it. So yeah, is it tough to find pro flat Earth videos? You bet.
I think just a respectful conversation, is.
I know.
But I mean, I know the world we live in. It just seems like 5 years ago, you go on YouTube and there was a lot more out there on the topic. It seems like there's been a concerted suppression of information.
It didn't even, they have been the two things happened back in, it was a little more than 5 years ago. It was 2018 was the big year. So from 2015 to 2018, we were running basically unopposed. And there's some wonderful videos about that because YouTube was looking for a binge topic. YouTube is technically the biggest television network in the world. A lot of people don't, but they were looking for a binge topic. And I remember the programmer who was French. There was one guy that really came up with the recommended algorithm, recommended for you on the right-hand side. And out of all the topics, the interviews I put on my channel, you can watch them if you want, where he, think about all the thousands of topics on YouTube, he could have picked as an example. You know what he picks? He says, well, if the average person that gets into flat Earth watches 20 videos in a row, what do you think we're going to recommend?
Right.
And really up until the middle of 2018, that's exactly what was happening. It did not matter what you were looking for in YouTube. Somewhere in that recommended for you were going to be some just isolated flat Earth videos. And back when they used to do autoplay, when the video would end, it'll click into another video. It'd be like, yeah, you were doing tractor maintenance. Oh, sure. But about 2 or 3 videos in, oh no, we're switching to flat Earth because everybody else seems to want to watch it. So why not you? During that summer was when our algorithms, 2 things. One, they did the Senate hearings that year where they were trying to crack down on misinformation on the internet. So what they were doing,
I hate that term, misinformation.
I know, but they recommended 3 things. They said we're gonna wipe out false flags. We're gonna get rid of those. We're gonna get rid of snake oil, and we're not gonna let anybody talk about the 2020 election, or the 2016 election, 2020 election, whatever. We're not going to let them talk about it. We're not going to say that elections are false, that sort of thing. And then they threw in one more caveat. They said, and we're going to recommend flat Earth less. And we're like,
with a deprioritization.
Yeah. Like again, of all the topics, this is the head of YouTube talking about this. And I remember watching this going, oh, this can't be good. And it was fast too. I mean, within a couple months, I remember Rob Skiba calling me up and says, he goes, is it just me or are you getting less money for the monetization? He goes,
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm seeing like a 70% drop. And I go, yeah, let me tell you about that. And the other thing they did real quick was they got rid of the scoreboard, which I was watching on a regular basis. And people, if you're old and if you go back far enough, up until 2018, because remember, Google owns YouTube, right? And so the biggest search engine in the world, of course, when you type in Google, you will see whatever you're searching for, and then search results equals a number. Same thing in YouTube. Search results equals a number. And those numbers were cranking up so fast. We were just blowing away everybody you can think of. NASA, the Beatles, Lady Gaga, blew by her, and the only people in front of us were like Taylor Swift and Katy Perry and Justin Bieber, those small people. Donald Trump was right in front of us, and we were going to knock him out. I figured in 6 months. We did it in 6 weeks. And then shortly after that, I remember somebody calling me up and they said, oh yeah, by the way, the scoreboard's gone. And I go, what do you mean gone? It's like, it's stunted, or the number's wrong? He goes, no, man. They removed that line from YouTube. So now, and I've got the screenshots to prove it, where it used to say search results equals a number, that line has been removed forever for all topics, for all time.
Yep.
And it was a big deal. So yeah, we ran unopposed, and now we're being stunted wherever we can, but they still haven't wiped us out. They still haven't made us so taboo. But yeah, you're right. It's tough to find a decent conversation on, but we're still out there.
We're big Rob Skiba fans too, by the way.
Big time. Love that
yeah,
guy.
big time. But I wanted to know, I mean, forgive me if this is too personal, but how is being publicly associated with such a controversial topic? It shouldn't be controversial, but how has it affected your personal life and your day-to-day interactions?
Not as bad as you might think. When the Netflix thing came out, it was mostly people that were stopping me on the street, but they weren't stopping to criticize. They were like, "Oh yeah, I saw you in such and such. Can I get a selfie?" type deal.
Yeah.
But now it's mostly, I mean, my friends have changed. Somebody asked me that recently. The people I associate with now are usually in the community, but it's not like I'm getting grief from my old friends. They're just keeping their distance. It's like they're worried. It's like
right.
And I don't think it has anything to do with my explosives background, but who knows? Maybe it does. It's like he's crazy and he's into explosives. No sudden movements.
Yeah, right.
And so, but my day to day, no, not so much, because I'm dealing with this sort of thing every day. Either I'm talking to somebody in the community or somebody that's trying to get, like I had just, was it yesterday? 2 days ago? High school in North Dakota wanted me to video in and talk to their classroom, and it's like, okay, sure. It's like,
that's shocking.
Well, you know what, the
public high school?
Yeah, public high school. Well, okay, a couple things. One, they won't let us on campus, right? I have David or I, we do the bulk of the interviews. Neither of us have been allowed to walk onto any campus, be it high school or university, ever, even though we've got tons of video calls, because there is no administration that's going to authorize that. Right. No administration is going to be caught dead signing off on something saying that a flat earther was allowed to walk onto a campus.
Oh, they'll lose their job.
Well, but not necessarily lose their job, but they know what the potential backlash could be, because it's going to come.
It's such a strange world to live in, where you can't, like, you can have anybody from any walk of life or any, if you had a Christian school, it's like, okay, today's Muslim Day. We're gonna have a Muslim come in and talk about their religion. It's like, why can't we just have a conversation whoever we want to? The strange time.
Well, that's okay, because they can bypass it. We come in on video, and the kids honestly pay more attention to a video screen than they would somebody live anyway. In fact, what the Netflix thing did was better than most. Is it certified us. It gave us street cred in the Gen Z world and young millennial world. And I'm not kidding you when I say that. Meaning, I lost count. David has too, of how many high schools and universities. I've even done middle schools. I'm not even sure if that's legal. But high schools and universities where we're on the syllabus. Meaning and it doesn't matter what class, whether it's general science or physics or sociology or psychology, we are the behind the curve is required viewing as alternative thinking, because it's Netflix certified. Right. There's no bad language, there's nothing controversial or non-PC, and so they'll watch it, and the teachers are thinking, okay, and they've told me, they go, one, the kids are more interested in it because as soon as they hear the Netflix logo, they're immediately just dialed in. It's like, oh great, it's like a field trip, we don't have to study today, we can just watch this. And the other thing is, the teachers think that it's going to make us be painted in such a light that the kids won't have any interest at all. They'll be like, well, it's obvious flat earth is crazy, and it's not. I mean, there's, because of how the peer groups work, there's a bunch of kids, they're like, oh yeah, flat earth is dumb, but there's always kids that contact me outside of it. Always. It's like, yeah, I watched your Netflix thing, dude, I'm with you. Right. And it's like every school, there's going to be more and more of those people. And once you get a certain number, you know how it goes. Once you get the certain number of people in there, it becomes more cool to kind of go with it than to go against it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the herd mentality. Yeah. Now I got a couple of devil's advocate questions, and I'll pepper these in as it goes on. But how do you respond to people who say that the scale of the flat Earth cover-up would require too many people, agencies, governments, pilots, scientists, all to stay silent?
I would have them first watch the 1978 independent film Capricorn 1 with James Brolin. Yeah, James Brolin, and one of the only serious roles for O.J. Simpson ever, where they faked a Mars mission, which was in fact, it's funny why that movie was even made. It was made because the Apollo mission production was so bad that the television affiliates were angry is like how low res everything was coming in, to their studios. It's like, why do we have to go down to Houston and shoot it second generation off a screen? Why can't we get the direct feed, right? And the point was in that movie was that almost nobody in NASA knew except for the telemetry guys and the high brass. And by that, I mean the telemetry guys that once the rocket goes out of view, the guys that tell you how far down, what the altitude and speed and how far down range it is, where it is in 3D space, right? Those are the only guys that have to fake it. Everybody else can just go, and you can look this up with NASA stuff for years, been going back years and years. The simulations before Apollo happened, as far as the instruments and all the blinking lights are concerned, looked exactly the same.
Right.
So what's the difference? If you were going to fake it to the mission control crew, how easy would it be to do? Incredibly easy, because they can't see it. All you're doing is sending them numbers. You're saying, oh no, here's where it is, and here's how fast it's traveling. Of course, the astronauts have to be in on it, but those are the only people. Everybody is 99% of NASA does not have to be on it. 99% of scientists, astrophysicists, radio telescope operators, you got to keep an eye on them. So the radio telescope operators, which are all independent, you would monitor, you'd absolutely tap their phones and their emails and everything else. And if anyone got out of line, you would make sure they didn't talk. And there were a number of deaths in the radio telescope world for years.
Go figure.
Right. Yeah, go figure, until you can replace them with people you can trust.
Right.
So no, most people do not have to know. It's so big that it becomes a need to know almost entirely, kind of like Antarctica, which is, unless you need to know, why would you tell anybody? You only tell the people that are absolutely in on it. If it was me, it'd be the telemetry guys, even the astronauts nowadays. Did you tell the Apollo astronauts? Yeah, of course, because you didn't know it better. You were just trying, and that's why they all became drunks and they stayed away from the camera, because the guilt. These guys were, Boy Scouts, and they were all of a sudden given parades, and schools are getting named after them. They weren't doing anything.
What was it? A funny thing happened on the way to the moon where he said, "Put your hand on the Bible," and swore you went to the moon.
Bart Sabrell,
who
still doesn't like us, and I love that clip. Which was he went to him. He didn't even know what he was doing when he did it. He thought he was just doing it from a straight up religious angle, but I knew what was happening, which was he walked up to the astronauts, says, "Put your hand on the Bible, and swear that you went to the moon." Right? Well, come on, that should be easy, right? It's called perjury. Thing. Yeah, people do it in court all day long. It's called perjury. You lie while swearing on the Bible. Why wouldn't the astronauts do it? And I think it's because with the Apollo astronauts, especially now, Bart tried it with the new people. We'll have to see what happens there. If he was smart, he'd try with them. Although there's probably some legal thing that's keeping him away from those guys. But for me, it was, if they leveled with the Apollo astronaut people, meaning, okay, you're faking it because, well, the world isn't what you think it is. It was created and it was probably built by, a creator. Therefore, you're going to be lying directly in front of the creator. You're going to roll those dice. It's one thing to believe in a God, right? And know that, well, yeah, a little lie here and there, but you don't know for sure if there's a God. It's a whole nother thing if you are 99.9% sure that there's a God. I don't care what name you put on the God. Once that happens, are you going to roll those dice? And for the astronauts, it's got to be the scariest thing ever. I mean, including me. Like when I got into this, once I was like, believed in this, I decided very early on, and I've never done it since. And my life's been better before it, because I believe in karma. I will never do anything malicious against anybody again, ever. Gun to my head. Will not do it. Now, if I accidentally back into somebody with my car, I don't think that counts. But I'm not going to do anything so premeditated that it'll be damaging to them, because I believe that, and I think that's how the rules change. I think once you're, it's kind of like the cameras at stoplights, right? So you've probably run a stop sign before in your life, right? Every once in a while,
never,
middle of the night, you're rolling through. It's probably, but you don't roll through when you see a camera attached to that intersection. Why not? Well, because you're going to get caught. Well, then why were you thinking about it then? Right? It's we, to use the old movie line.
Good analogy.
We're only as good as the system allows us to be. I come from that world, and it's like, look, we're good to a point, but we tend to lean, push it as far as we can. If you knew that there was a big big all-seeing God up there looking over the top of his newspaper, you really going to keep doing the same things you're doing? Maybe not.
Your belief in a flat Earth, an enclosed system, which I personally believe as well. Did that bring you closer to believing in God?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I was a great example for that, in that I came from a born again evangelical Christian community on an island, to where once we hit the tipping point and all the cool kids got involved, church wasn't just a Sunday thing. Right. It was Wednesdays and Saturdays. There was youth group and vacation Bible school and Camp Malibu and all this fun stuff.
Sure.
It wouldn't have surprised me if there was a couple kids out there with John 3:16 tattoos.
Yep.
Right. And when I got off the island and I was then exposed to the fact that there's more than one religion in the world, and it's like, oh wow, then I kind of fell away from it, and then I got into tech and gaming. And as you know, the gaming world and the tech world have nothing to do with church. The two do not meet. It's like Sunday, oh no, dude, we're playing Warcraft. We're not going to church. No, like we're powering through from Friday night into Sunday. Why would we go to church on Sunday? So once I got into flat Earth, that all changed, because what I said there, which is, if it was built, if the model looks artificial, looks like it was built and it was created. And if it's created, well, then what are we talking about here? We're talking either one of two schools, either an advanced civilization that's older and more powerful than us, right? Which you could go down that road very, very easily, especially if you're in the tech world, or you could go the divine. And at that point, you're really just kind of splitting hairs, because if a giant golden spaceship, lands somewhere, you're going to have some people that are going to think that they're the aliens from Avatar, and the other people are going to think, oh, we need to build churches to to whoever just landed in that spaceship, because you don't know, because people will be claiming, oh, that's Ezekiel's wheel, can't you see it?
Right.
It's a freaking spaceship, which is why the alien disclosure thing. Anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, personally, when I dive into the topic myself, I use scripture, because I'm a God-fearing man. I have Jesus Christ living in my heart, and I look to scripture, and there's so many verses that back up a stationary Earth. You know what I mean? So for me, in my faith, it's a no-brainer for me. Yeah. But another devil's advocate question. But when this is the age-old question, right? It's like when people can personally observe things like ships disappearing over the horizon, lunar eclipses, southern star rotations. Yeah. What is your explanation? Through all the years of researching, what's your explanation for these observations?
You listed three. Give me the first one.
The lunar eclipses.
That one's actually, I think, wrong, and I don't want to get in trouble with the Almighty here. I do think that is a design, either overlook or it's blurred out deliberately, which is, if the eclipse shadow for the moon, we'll go if that's the actual solar system model, right? The eclipse shadow for the moon, you've seen it go across the United States a few times. If the moon is 2,000 miles wide, why is the eclipse shadow only 100 miles wide? We're rounding up depending, right? And that's really, really small. We can't replicate that down here naturally, which is, when you walk by a wall with the sun, one side of you, your shadow doesn't shrink down to the size of an action figure. It never ever does. You'll never ever see it. It always is same size, right, when it's directly overhead, or it gets longer. Old stuff. So if that's the case, and the moon is actually 2,000 miles wide, then the Earth is 8,000 miles wide, then it should shrink down to a shadow and turn the moon into a giant eyeball. And yet it doesn't. It's like this big blurry red thing that's like really, really huge. I'm going, that's strange, because same sun, same space, same optics. That's how it works. It's like, and yet the Earth is doing something completely different than the moon is when it comes to the eclipse. So either way, it doesn't make sense to me. But when it comes to the sky, and we'll get to your second question in a second, I think that's a design choice. You know what? That's what I'm going to say. It's a design choice.
Nice, perfect. Yeah.
What's happened there, because I do believe this world, the God was a programmer. I don't, I know, because the old tools, we didn't know what computers were until fairly recently. But if you think that God didn't know what the computers were, oh, you're kidding yourself. Look up, if you ever get a chance, you haven't seen it already, look up the red refracted laser DMT experiments. Have you seen that stuff?
The DMT, meaning the
Yeah, so the drug. So what these guys did, again, leave it to the drug culture. No offense if you guys do drugs. Hugs, not drugs. I'm not judging. Which is you take a red laser, right, and you refract it to where it's like the beam is, I don't know, an inch or two thick, and you put it onto a white wall. Easy enough. And then
I've seen this, Mark. People can look through. I've seen this. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They can see through it, and then you take your friend, have him take DMT. You know, it was found out by accident, right? Where it's like, and where all of a sudden everyone's doing the same thing. They're pinning their head right against the wall, and they're going, "I can see into the freaking wall. I can see the red code behind the wall." And it's not like they're looking through the drywall. They're looking into a completely different phased dimension. And it is straight up. They're basically saying it's like watching it's like Matrix vision, only in red. And it's like, okay, well, since lasers don't shoot out code, as far as I know, then what are we talking about here?
Wow. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. What was the second one?
The star rotations.
Star rotation. No different. Everything in the sky is, again, just a projection, which is, it doesn't matter if it's the stars or the planets or even shooting stars. You are looking at lights on a ceiling. No different than if you're in a planetarium. I only know this because I come from the video game world. I know what we've been aspiring to do for decades, which is we create the skybox system. And in the skybox system, and it's complete right angles, by the way, there are no curves. You know, we can create the illusion of curves and everything in the sky, but it's just lights on a ceiling. When you go into a planetarium, can we replicate the star rotations going, left and right at the equator in a planetarium? You bet we can. That's not difficult at all. The bigger question is, okay, when you walk outside of that building, who's to say you're not just in a much, much bigger building? Yeah. The sky is just instanced. It wouldn't. Yes, I know at the equator, you can watch the time lapse, the shots. What gets me isn't that part is true. What gets me is the tourist traps on the ground that try to do the whole water swirling in different directions, depending on what side of the equator you're on. And that, by the way, that is just parlor tricks 101, because even if that was true, it would never happen 3 feet on this side and 3 feet on that side. It would be so incredibly gradual. But everybody knows, like you can make the water drain in your sink. Just take your sink, your faucet, and move it to one side or the other. You can have it go clockwise or counterclockwise. And the toilets in the southern hemisphere are an absolute myth. Sorry, I'm trying to cram a lot of stuff in here. Which is, look up if you want to see the water swirling experiment. There was a wonderful, huge channel called Smarter Every Day. And he did years ago, an experiment with his friend in Australia where they set up because he heard of the myth too, and he set up kiddie pools, identical kiddie pools in both northern and southern, with a central drain, made sure the water had stayed absolutely glass for hours, and then put food coloring drops in it to show rotation so you didn't disturb the water, and pulled the plugs both on the phone, live feed simultaneously. Excellent test. Absolutely excellent test. And he goes, if there was any spin at all, it was so incredibly gradual, it might as well have been considered non-existent. So when anyone tells you, it's like, oh no, the toilets, go opposite, that is one of those myths that has been sent down forever and ever. And only because of the internet have we been able to debunk it recently. What was the third one?
The third one was the ships disappearing over the horizon.
Oh, that's
I know.
That's too easy. Which is, show me a ship disappearing over the horizon on a really, really calm day. David Weiss's example is as good as any, which is the problem is that people don't understand that perspective, which is close waves, will distort the image it doesn't matter. Like, for example, is my eye or is my finger covering my whole face? No. How about now?
Right.
Right. And that's because the waves were really, really close to you just then. If the waves are high enough, you can cover an entire tanker with those things. But if the water is really, really clear and the refraction levels are low and the atmosphere, can you remember, the other things is, this is part of a design choice, which is, remember, we're not breathing in nothing, right? We're breathing in basically a transparent fog, almost transparent. It's only 99% transparent. It's 80% nitrogen and 20% oxygen. And forget about the trace gases for now, which is compounds over time. It's like panes of glass. You can only put so many panes of glass in front before the object gets so distorted that you can't see it anymore, which is why off in the distance, the sun, and I, again, love David's experiments, the sun doesn't actually set. It just goes away to where even the sun cannot penetrate all the layers of atmosphere between you and that. Where I've watched the videos too, where the sun gets off to a certain point and then it just evaporates. And And people still to this day, it's like, no, that's fake. That's AI. That's fake. It's like, no. First, he made this pre-AI. He did it himself with a drone multiple times, and he could do it all day long. So,
have you ever seen the sun in the clouds? Have you ever seen those pictures?
Yeah, I have, and I don't know really what to make of that because
I don't either.
Because I treat it almost the same. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me because again, I come from the simulation world where we kind of make mistakes like that, where it was like we don't expect the character to go to this certain part of the map. So it's like, well, they're not going to go there, so they're not going to notice it. Kind of like the corpuscular rays, right? Corpuscular rays should not, wherever you are, you know, the rays come down in an angle, a spread pattern around you, right? Well, if the sun is 93 million miles away, they should absolutely be coming in parallel, so parallel that you would never ever notice the difference. However, I can tell you from the game world where I come in, we create corpuscular waves because we cheat, because the sun isn't 93 million miles away. It's really, really close. It's not even 30 miles away. It's super close and super small. And then we just, you know, because the light source, anyone knows anything about light sources, if the light source is really close, the light rays spread out all over the place, which is also why the shadows on the Apollo missions were so damning. Only because we do not teach light physics to students. That's the only reason Apollo has any credibility to this day. Because any photography person is going to tell you, it's like the only reason the shadows should be like that is if it is a giant local light source, and by that I mean a big spotlight,
right?
That's not too far from them in a sound studio in an Air Force base somewhere.
What do you think about Kubrick's confession? Have you seen
Kubrick? Okay. Well, first off, the Kubrick confession is absolutely fake. I did a video. Yeah. I did a video on it. You can look it up. Just type in Kubrick on my channel, and you'll find it there. I was the first one to call it out when it was released, and the reason why it was fake is because it was shot in HD. And if you guys know anything about Kubrick's history, he died in '99. Well, that's pre-HD. And this thing came out later, and plus the way it was edited, the original thing that came out, not the outtake reel, which I put on my channel, someone was coaching him on exactly what to say. Yeah, the guy kind of looked like Kubrick, kinda, but that's whoever, you know, who was, you know, going for the clicks with, you know, if you edit it in a certain way, yeah, it makes it kind of like that. But no, he died in '99. It was
so that was made by someone on the internet.
Yep, it was made by someone.
Everybody up about
and it got traction. But you know what? As much as I wanted, I had to shoot it down just for common decency. It's like I don't want this thing to get out there. But least I could say that, hey, a flat earther called it out as being fake, but it did get people thinking about the moon missions. So, which is fine. It's like, hey, you know what? Great, run with it. Have fun with it.
Whether that was fake or not, I still think he was the one that did it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the. Oh, okay. You want I'm sorry. Let me back up for a second. The original confession, if you want to watch the documentary, if you've never seen it, called Room 237, which was brilliant. So he dies in '99.
That was wild.
And a lot of people don't know that, he made not a lot of movies in his life, and he was really good. He was considered an amazing technical director, to where he would encode certain things into movies just because he could. Clever little things, Easter eggs. Lots of directors will put in Easter eggs. There was a wonderful person that found, I'll give you a quick one really fast, because I mentioned this on an interview I did recently. So Terminator 2, you guys have seen it probably a million times.
Of course.
Yeah,
my favorite Terminator.
The original scene where Arnold meets the T-1000 in the hallway, and they both draw guns and they start shooting each other, right? You guys, oh my God, the cop is actually a Terminator, right? And Arnold has that box of flowers that he pulls out, I think it was a Winchester lever action 12 gauge 1887, and just starts blasting them, right? And I've watched that scene so many times, and I was watching a reaction channel with this girl. It was just, I don't even know if she had 20,000 subs yet. And she was reacting to it. I was because I was always curious. And she watches, and Arnold hadn't pulled the shotgun out yet. And she goes, "I bet you there's a gun in that Roses box." And I go, wait a minute. And I go, because James Cameron does Easter eggs, and what you didn't know is, you remember before where John Connor was riding his dirt bike through the streets, and they were playing a Guns N' Roses song, "You Could Be Mine," right? That was the Easter eggs. He hid the shotgun, a gun, in the Roses box. That was an Easter egg. I had never No, I have never seen anyone catch that. And
Yeah.
it's like, yes, James Cameron was a big Guns N' Roses fan, and Arnold was one of the few MTV videos he was in. He was in that video for Guns N' Roses, and he met him at the end. But the point was, where was it going?
Wow, I didn't know any of that stuff.
Kubrick.
Yeah,
Kubrick. The Danny shirt there and the Shining.
Yeah, so he did 1980. He did the version of Stephen King's 70s book, The Shining, and he encoded his entire experience working for the government for the Apollo. And remember, he did this late because he was working for the Apollo program in the early 60s. And he encoded this into the movie, and it was not even, he didn't know. Maybe he thought maybe down the road. It only when it came out on Blu-ray, and you could pause in Blu-ray, and actually do decent freeze frames without all the static, that a guy was like, oh my God. And he started going through and seeing how the Apollo mission was tied to Stanley Kubrick. And where room 237, which is 237,000 miles away from the Earth, the room number was an anagram, the way they had it for moon room. Nothing in that room was real. It started out as a beautiful dream, turned out into be a nightmare. And that's because they went to him. The story goes really, really fast. The story goes is that NASA was looking for what could be faked on film. Okay, we know in about 6 years or so, 6 or 7 years, we're going to have to fake the moon mission. So who can fake it? What can be faked? And they started soliciting directors, and blank check, which all directors are like, and no limit to how much time you can spend on the movie. And they go to Kubrick and they say, and they recruited him because when he did Dr. Strangelove, he had asked the government, hey, can I get into one of your B-52s to kind of get the layout so I can make it in my movie? And they're going, absolutely not, you weirdo. It's like, that's classified. You can't walk into one of our bombers. And he figured it out anyway. I don't know who he talked to, but they were amazed at how well the inside of that cockpit of that B-52 looked. So it's like, hey, you know what? If we give him money, who knows what he can do? So they paid him, and he worked from like 63 to 68. So 5 years. Who gets 5 years to make a freaking movie? Ungodly amounts of money he was spending on this, and it is aged so well. And he asked them, how the story goes, is he asked them, hey, when I'm done researching how I can fake stuff on, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He didn't know what the ultimate goal was. Can I turn this into a movie? It's like, yeah, as long as you don't kind of point back at us. And so he came up with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it is aged so incredibly well. But he had mixed feelings towards the end, and he just backed out. He's like, you know what? You guys can do whatever you want with this. And they released the movie in 68, but he goes, I'm out. And they go, fine, you don't tell anybody, right? Don't tell anybody. So if you remember The Shining, I think he told somebody, and one of his friends got whacked.
Yeah.
Who would have been represented by the black innkeeper in The Shining. Yeah. I think that was the guy that he represented that. But Room 237, sorry, long-winded thing. If you've never seen it, watch the documentary 237. Kubrick was absolutely involved. And then he kept his mouth shut. And then, of course, he did, he ended on a high note, which is, I know what I'll do. Let's talk about the Illuminati, and let's make a movie called Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
That was the kiss of death for him, man.
Yeah, literally. What could go wrong, right?
Yeah, I know.
That was a haunting movie. And from what I understand, that wasn't even the director's cut.
Yeah, right. So, I don't even want to watch the director's cut.
I don't even know where it is.
Yeah,
he made it, but you're never going to see it. It's gone somewhere.
Speaking of the moon, Mark, have you ever seen that YouTube video? It's probably 2 or 3 minutes long, of a guy. The initials just say R. Foster, and it's a German man in Australia speaking about how the moon is plasma. It's a very small video. He goes, and he talks like this: the moon is plasma, and it's in black and white. It's from the 60s.
Oh, wait. It's a German guy. He's not the guy standing on the British cliffside with glasses. It's black and white. It's probably. You think it's that guy? That's
him. That's it's labeled R. Foster, and in the video he says, I have seen that. And he says he sent his work to many universities, and they've rejected his claim outright. I emailed all the universities he spoke about in that video, and in a university in Australia finally got back to me. It was in the special collections unit.
Yeah.
And they emailed me a letter that he wrote in the 60s. It's all coffee stained and everything else. But he was detailing how the moon is plasma. I'd like to send you that letter if I can. Yeah. And I would like to know your thoughts on the moon itself, now that we're talking about the moon, because I've been going down this moon plasma road for a little bit, and even the craters on the moon, I believe, are basically an optical illusion because,
the sky is the short version of what everything in the sky is. The sky is just a highly decorated clock that predates language. That's all it is. It is there, not necessarily for signs and wonders, but it's there at least to tell time, right? It's the, you can plant your crops and do everything. You don't even have to have an alphabet. You can figure out what to do based on the sky. The sun is a big incandescent light bulb, and the moon is a cool laser that has nothing to do with the sun. They're both completely independent from each other. Yep. Do I think they three-dimensional in nature? Boy, it's tough to say, because some of the stuff we're coming out with, the new versions of the OLED monitors, we can generate a hot spot and a cool spot, things that generate light just off of a 2D surface. But when it comes to the decoration of the moon, I've always been fascinated with that, because it's very striking. Right? There's craters within craters within craters, but all the craters look like they've come in at a 90-degree angle, and I mean 90% of them.
What did I say, Johnny? We were just talking about this. I said that all the meteors, there should be some sort of a trail, right? I mean, every single one comes straight down at a 90-degree angle.
It should look like a shooting gallery, right? I shoot, and I can tell you that the shooting targets, especially metal ones, they're a mess. There's all sorts of ricochets going off, and you can't tell me that everything's coming in at a 90-degree angle.
No, yeah.
And even if you could tell me that happened, how to do it with the Earth being so close, because the Earth's gravitational pull, if you believe in mainstream science, would alter the trajectory of those. In fact, why isn't the Earth a shooting gallery? And so do I think, again, it's a design choice, not picking, but the moon is very, very decorated, more decorated than what we have. And the flip side is, if the moon looks like it's been absolutely blasted, from all angles, all freaking angles at a 90-degree angle, then why do we not see tons and tons and tons of craters? I mean, we all know about 2 or 3 in the United States, and maybe a few in other countries, but there's very, very few by comparison. I mean, like 1%, a fraction of a percent. But the other part is, and I really don't want this to be overlooked, because anyone that wants to send one to me, please do. 6 billion smartphones in the world right now, right? More people have smartphones than have running water. And yet there isn't a single video of a meteor or a comet going from air to ground. Ever, anywhere, or air to water, or air to snow, or air to tree, or anything. It never happens. And every once in a while, someone will send me this stupid thing where supposedly a deck got hit. It's like a ring cam. It's like, no. Air to ground. Don't tell me something that may have fallen out of an airplane or a balloon satellite that dropped a piece of something. I mean, show me a freaking shooting star that goes all the way down and goes poof, and then you can drive up to it and see the smoking crater, which we have seen in movies many times. By the way, sorry, circling back to Stanley Kubrick really quick. You know what the 2001: A Space Odyssey did, though, was it filled in mentally the gaps, everything that we should have seen with the Apollo missions in 1969, which was 1 year later, the landing on the moon. We backward imagined from the Stanley Kubrick work, which is like, oh no, everyone had watched that movie the year before, and so they already had an image in the mind of what it should look like on the moon, and they were just filling in those gaps. So, and the same thing with the meteors. People have seen meteors land in so many movies and science fiction things, and yet it never happens in real life. But when you ask them, it's like, oh, I'm sure I've seen it. Or it's on the, when they look for the internet, they can't find it, then they get bored and and go away. It's like, no, find me one. Somebody find me one. 6 billion smartphones, a cruise boat, a fishing boat, somebody in the skiing. It should have happened by now somewhere. Don't show me other stuff that isn't there. Don't talk about the Tunguska blast.
Oh God, yeah.
Mark, I was going to ask you quick before we move off the moon, what you think about that theory that's been posed about the X-ray continents imposed on the moon.
It's
that one floats around a lot.
It does, and it's fine. I mean, if it gets traction and helps us, that's great. It's not in my top 10 because it's like, I mean, it's fine, but it's a bit. I don't want to use a word that's unkind here. It's not so close that I want. I mean, yeah, you can kind of make it fit, and
yeah, you have to like take it and turn it.
And if you're squinting, you may be smoking something. Yeah, you might be able to make it work. But other than that, it's like it's kind of like the I don't even think it's even above like the no trees on flat Earth thing. If you remember that from years ago,
I do.
Where every mesa is a cut down tree now that's been petrified. Now, do I believe in terraforming, and do I believe in other versions of this world where things might have been bigger and we've kind of made things smaller? And whoever's been working on this place has made it smaller and smaller, kind of like Japanese electronics. If you remember back in the day, remember computers used to be the size of rooms. And now we can make them so fit in the palm of your hand. The part that your cell phone has more processing power than supposedly all of NASA combined, right, from the 1960s. Which kind of lens is like, all right, then how did they go to the moon in the 1960s? And if you want to bring up Artemis later, that's fine. So
Artemis, it's on the list.
Good.
Oh, we did a. When the Artemis did a splashdown, we did a recording of that as well, and we had so many questions. We were laughing out loud. It's just it's the wool over the eyes is just like you said. It's like there is some people involved in it. The astronauts have to be, and but 99% I think are just they're doing a job and they're naive to the fact.
Yeah. And you don't even have to tell the astronauts. Here's the brilliance. I mean, I will say the government does learn from its mistakes. At least we do, which is you don't even have to tell the astronauts why they're doing it anymore. You just put it under clearance level, which is is below your pay grade to know why you're doing it. I treat them no different than I do assassins. And you guys have seen the movies. Like, okay, you're going to go to this hotel. The sniper rifle is in the shower. You're going to use this window. You're going to hit that dictator across there. He's coming out of his limousine in 5, 4, 3, and then that's it. You put the gun down. You leave. You fly back home. You're done. You get your money, right? At no point in real world espionage do you find the sniper doesn't care about the political backstory. They don't care why they're shooting the guy and who's married to who and everyone involved. All they care about is shooting the rifle, right? When it comes to the astronauts, same sort of thing, which is, okay, you're gonna get into this, you're gonna fake this and this and this, and that's it. That's all you have to do. You don't get to know why. I think they told Apollo why. And with the other astronauts, like, no, we just don't have to tell them. If they want to guess, that's fine. But guessing is not knowing. And if they ever have any problem, and then you monitor their emails and their phone calls and everything else, and you make sure that if they even hint about going in another direction, And also one more thing, which is what I threw at Terry Virts when I got to talk to him on a show once with one of our astronauts, because people said, "Is Terry lying? Are you saying that Terry's a liar?" I go, no, Terry's a soldier, like all astronauts, right? And what I mean by that is that when we lie, right, we may go to court and we may get a civil court, we may go to prison. But when it's military, it's treason. Yeah, and treason is a very, very, very different thing, which is when you get hit with treason, the rules are not what people think. It's like, no, they can lock you in a room and throw away the room. Right? You would never see these people again if they don't want to. So you hold that over their head, and you make sure that they go up the ranks. I mean, most of the people that are astronauts nowadays are officers. A lot of them are colonels. Like Terry Virts, he was a full bird colonel. It's like you don't make to be colonel and like not know how to keep a secret.
Right. Well, this you're told. Sorry, I was going to say this one I think is a little different. If we can believe what everyone's saying about a couple of those folks being actors, like actually actors from popular movies. Yeah. What do you think about that? I mean, supposedly someone's found them.
Yeah, I know. I can tell you exactly who they are. Okay, so with Christina, was she in Mad Max Fury Road? It's very.
I don't know.
I saw the pictures. She would have been 37. She's 47 now. Really surprised. I mean, which meant, she took out the gray out of her hair before she went on the launch. Of course, why she has hair in a zero-G spacecraft, it's a whole nother thing. But Victor, the black guy, he was supposedly in. He looks just like it. I mean, with her, because of the makeup, you could be like, well, may not have been her, but she is listed as the only credit. With Victor, he was in Fallout Season 1, Episode 4 as a background actor. Up at a podium, he's standing right there. It's like, well, it does look at him. Now, okay, this is a personal opinion on my part, which is there anything stopping actor, anybody in the media from doing side gigs with acting? No, there's not. However, if it was me and if I was working with NASA people, I would say, look, if you need extra scratch, extra cheese on the side, then come to us. We'll give you the money, because it does not help your credibility at all to have NASA people in movies and or television shows. This is different from, like, say, when the entire cast of CNN was in Jodie Foster's movie Contact, because they were just doing fake news stories for the movie. It's like, okay, well, why not? They're doing exactly what they normally do. They're just doing it for a movie. We all get that. It's like, okay, we have to do some fake news stories. Or like Wolf Blitzer in Mission Impossible. Okay, fine. Yeah. This is different, though. Having an astronaut in a completely unrelated, non-documentary movie blurs the lines, and the internet is so twitchy as it is. I would not let them do it. So having them do it, again, there's nothing illegal about having them do it, but it absolutely is terrible for your credibility. Terrible PR move for sure. Yeah, bad. Artemis was a nightmare, and come on, they did themselves again. I don't know how much when this is on your list, but I want to mention this really fast. Her press conference where she lost focus because of the earpiece.
That was bad. That was bad.
Was bad.
Brutal.
Super bad. And it's like, look, you are old enough to know when things go wrong, you need to pivot. I mean, come on, dead air is dead air.
That was weird. It was very weird.
That was brutal to watch.
I think somebody, I pretty good idea what happened there, where whoever was on the other side, it was kind of, and whoever said, hold on, pause, right? And she was doing what she was told, and she thought they were going to come back in 5 seconds, and they didn't. And she was like, crap, do I wait? Do I turn around?
You mean she thought they were going to cut to a commercial?
Well, no, I think that they knew there was something. We'll just do something, like let's say you're in the production truck and you're talking to her, and then all of a sudden you realize there's something going on, and you're like, hang on a second. And then you're fiddling with something and you think you're going to be able to solve it in a second or two, and you're not. And she's on the other side holding. She's waiting, and it's like, it's not like she's on live television, but at the same time, she's like, and it's like, and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap. It's like reset, right? And then by the time you've gone through your whatever it is, and you're moving really, really fast in the production team, an infinite amount of time has passed in front of that audience. She should have known that, look, the rule is, if you are out of communication, whatever you're doing, if you lose your place, you've got to find focus somewhere else. Your crew is behind you. You spin around. Hey, Victor, tell me that funny story about how they saw you in your underwear. Or whatever it is, you need to find a backup. And she didn't. She just stayed there. Yes, she did what she was told, but brutal. That was
Did you see the way that fella on the right looked at her when she turned around as she was walking away from the camera?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh man, the fellow astronaut, he locked eyes with her.
He went like, he gave it one of these, like, what the heck were you doing just now?
And I don't think it was entirely, I think it was mostly the production team fault, but it was also they did not always have a backup plan. Rule 5 of media, always have a backup plan. And she didn't. And that part, look, it was crucial because it was one of the early interviews when they got back. And of course, the fact that she got back and she was walking around the stage, and then a couple days later she couldn't walk.
She couldn't walk.
What are you doing? You didn't even limp when you were on stage, unless you want to say that you had a brain aneurysm while you were up there. But
that was beautiful.
I'd love to see them. I'd love to see somebody explain why, when that thing touches down, the sea around it isn't boiling over with how hot that thing was. I mean, Is that
Hey,
a simpleton way to look at that?
Nope. The reason why they couldn't do it, well, they should have absolutely. If you're dropping it from like a C-17 or something like that, a big transport plane, and you're letting it fall, for real,
right?
Which they had to have done in the past anyway. You're not gonna be able to heat it up anyway because you can't heat it up on the plane. Yes, this was one of the few times ever. Now, granted, it was done with computer graphics where we saw this big wall of flame. This thing basically turned into a fireball, and up until now, we had not seen that outside of the movies, right? And it was still computer graphics, right? And we're seeing this. Right. It's like 5,000 degrees. It's like, well, okay, first off, you shouldn't have shown that shot. Absolutely shouldn't have shown that shot because you made it look way too hot. And then that goes backwards in time because it's like, okay, wait a minute. Not only did this capsule not steam when it hit, but every Apollo capsule that did the same thing didn't steam up. And you can't tell me you're going from 5,000 degrees to almost room temperature in, just general air temperature in what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, by the time not even when the parachute's open. I mean, that you're right. When it hits, it should have been more dynamic, and it wasn't.
When you come in from a motorcycle,
keep going down the Artemis Road on this.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, when you come in from a motorcycle ride, your pipes are hot for 3 hours. I mean, we're not talking about 5,000 degrees. I mean,
heat shields. When the capsule separated, when we paused, and I was looking, I went back because they only showed it for 3 seconds. I didn't even see tiles when that thing separated. Just like this gray blob, and I'm going, what am I looking at exactly? And then what we also didn't realize until just then was all those shots from the interior, everything they did, their whole life was in that capsule. There was no other module. Do you know that?
No.
By the way, where supposedly the whole thing was tied to the capsule, and then the lower section, which was just this, their life support and all this other crap, and everything else was inside, which leads to, oh god, how many more instances you want to do here? They never talked about the same thing the Apollos never talked about, which was how much air do you got? Right. How much air do you got in that thing? Do you really have 10 days?
Question,
4 people for 10 days. Not once. That's has always bugged me, which is scuba divers. I've known a bunch over the years, and all they care about is what your oxygen gauge is, right? And by that, how much nitrogen and oxygen is on your tank. They care about that. All they care about when they're underwater. It's like when it goes underneath 10 minutes, when it goes to single digits, they're constantly, it's like, we got to get out of here, right? Why didn't Apollo ever talk about that? Right. Apollo never talked about how much air they had left. Apparently, it was unlimited air all the time. What magical thing in that backpack? You cannot tell me you had carbon scrubbers in that backpack, not 1969. And even if you did, with what power? What power's running them? And what capsule? At no point. And you've got a dune buggy, and you're 3-4 miles away from that capsule, right? If that dune buggy breaks down, remember it's battery powered, right? If that dune buggy breaks down, do you have enough air to walk back? Because remember, you're not running. And you're nobody. At no point do I hear anyone in any transmission talk about how much air they have left. It's unlimited air all the time, and that's not true, because if it was, scuba diving as we know it would be revolutionized.
Right. That's true.
It never ever happened.
It's the same with the ISS. Everyone's always wondering. It's like,
do you think that Hollywood has just permeated the culture so much that everybody's desensitized to the fact that they don't ask questions anymore? Yes,
the Hollywood, God bless them. I mean, look, I love space shows. I was always a big fan of Star Wars and Star Trek and Stargate and Battlestar Galactica. You notice the theme there, where space is real, space is real, space is real. But when they started, there were a couple things that they did and they based it off the moon, which was spacesuits apparently work in zero G in a vacuum, where the pressure absolutely doesn't affect the articulation points of the spacesuit at all. It's like, look, a spacesuit is a balloon. That's all it is. It's when you're in a vacuum, you're blowing it up from the inside out, and it would turn into like a tire at 100 psi, and you wouldn't be able to bend anything. But the other thing, of course, because in the 1960s, you had very limited special effects technology. And the fact that most people don't understand, it's like, all you have to do is slow down the frame rate to 50%, and it'll make it look this floaty feel. It's like, why would you have a floaty feel? If a 180-pound man weighs 30 pounds on the moon, it'd be the opposite. You'd be moving really, really fast all the time because you'd weigh nothing. Right? What's with this floaty feel stuff? In fact, all you have to do is, because of the internet now, you can just go on YouTube, change the frame rate, bump it up by 100%. Oh, look what happens. They're just running around. And that's what we used to do in television back in the day. Fast forward to the movies, some things have never changed, which is there's a hole in the side of the spaceship. Oh no, get the duct tape. We only have 3 minutes of air left. It's like, no, any physics student will tell you that's not how it works. The air, every once in a while you'll get a movie, they'll be like, they can kind of figure it out, but like ruin the end of Aliens for me, where Ripley's, she has an open, remember that happened twice to her, in 2 movies. Like you've got a huge hole open to space. I mean, yeah, you've got some hurricane force winds, but it's not instant. If you guys have watched anything that's tied to submarines or deep sea oil rigs or anything like that, it's horrifying.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
There's a vacuum accident. It's so fast you can't even see it happen.
Look at what they were talking about with those fellas in the that little submarine that imploded a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
They said it was like instant soda can. Like you didn't even have time to.
The 5 men in the oil drilling pipe.
Oh yeah, it is super fast. I challenge anybody. All you have to do is go on YouTube. The video is still there. Has millions and millions of hits. Steel rail car versus vacuum. It's not even 10 seconds long. It's a steel rail car. God bless the Germans for doing these every once in a while. And they took basically a steel rail car and they put a vacuum in the inside, right? They made the inside a vacuum, and it implodes so quickly you'd swear there was a giant invisible monster just went, it's so incredibly fast. So the space movies get it wrong all the time, but we accept it, like you said, because we see it so many times, and it's like, well, it worked in fiction, but it doesn't work here. And it's like, yeah, anytime you see a vacuum force, the pressure, again, I didn't make up the rules, which is pressure cannot exist in non-pressure without a vacuum, right? And which leads to the question, how is our atmosphere still here? In fact, somebody came up with something recently. Hang on, let me grab the globe really fast.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'll use this globe right here. Okay, here's an actual globe. Notice I've got flat Earth stickers all over it. Okay, so this globe, for example, somebody mentioned this to me recently because it's like, okay, what happens when our atmosphere ends and space begins? Right? Because this technically, and they said, well, eventually what will happen is gravity will stretch out. It'll be a fight between the vacuum and the gravity of this, right? And it'll thin it out and it'll stretch it to where there'll be particles out, let's say at, I don't know, 3,000 miles away, right? And it'll hold it there in perpetuity. I'm going, oh, okay, that's not bad. And he reminded me, he goes, however, that only works if this planet is sitting in the middle of nowhere doing nothing. Meaning, think about this, right? So supposedly gravity is holding our atmosphere, right? And all the particles, because I'm going, okay, eventually the space is going to rip off all the particles. It's going to rip off the atmosphere of this thing, right? But if it's standing like this, remember, in the middle of nowhere, not spinning, not doing anything, technically this might work, right? But it's not doing nothing. First off, it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, right? That's the first thing it's doing. 1,000 miles an hour is creating centrifugal force at the equator. It's also flying sideways, horizontally, at 60,000 miles an hour, simultaneously moving vertically at 500,000 miles an hour. And the whole Milky Way galaxy is moving a couple million miles an hour after that. So now tell me again how the particles of our atmosphere are still here, because you can't tell me that this thing moving ridiculously through space, the gravity is going to be able to hold on. I mean, even if you could explain away the 60,000 miles an hour, which we can't replicate with anything,
right?
The 500,000 miles an hour sideways, the vertical force, that's ridiculous. That's ludicrous speed. Straight out of Spaceball.
What do you think is stopping the majority of the population from having like the Neo and the Matrix moment? You know what I mean? Like, well, is it just I mean, what I think it is, obviously, is just they don't want to have the illusion shattered. They don't want the fact that they've been lied to for years.
Well, if you're going to use the Neo reference, let's call it what it is, right? Which is, if I believe in simulation theory, and I come from that world.
Yep.
I don't want to spook people, but this is how it works, which is before we let a single player in that game, we create an army of NPCs. And those NPCs have a very limited learning curve. You know, I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, if you wanted to, remember, our NPCs started out really as notes on the ground back in the day, and then we turned them into people, and then we started giving them lives. Nowadays, you could say, well, if you put an AI engine in them, you could have the NPCs learn some stuff. Yeah, possibly. But yes, they are not open-minded because they weren't programmed to be open-minded. Because if too many people, I've kind of been a believer of this, which is why I've kind of been leery. You know, I've been kind of watching in the wings, and come on, 2026, it is getting pretty nutty out there, which is if enough of the people figure out what this world is, then we have the proverbial tipping point. The proverbial, you know, does what I call the Tower of Babel protocol, which, if you guys remember the Tower of Babel story, which is one of the smallest stories, but I think the one of the most critical in Genesis, which said God, when he made like one of his first civilizations, they were too good at what they did. And they immediately figured out where this place was. And that's why they built the tower going to heaven. It's like, oh no, we know exactly. It's like, why were they building a tower in the first place? It's not going anywhere if it's going to space, but if it's going to the ceiling and they could connect with the ceiling, oh, they had a purpose. And that's how the story goes. It's like, and God looks down, he's like, nuts. They're going to make it. Okay, language, scatter. And then that's how it goes. And I think every version after that, because again, we're not the first people to run this place, he's tried to slow down the process of the discovery of this place. So to your question, why don't most people know? Because they're not supposed to know. But they've been catching on through experiments like the Ash experiment and Milgram experiments. Peer pressure does a lot. If you hit them all the time. In fact, there's a wonderful, look it up if you get a chance. I think it's called the seventh man scenario or eighth man scenario. I can't remember which one it is, which is if you hear something random from 8 different people or 7 different people, well, we'll just say like a movie, for example. If you hear, we'll just say 7, we'll play, but I can't remember which one it is. But I was told this by a guy in Australia. It's actually pretty true, which is if you were walking around and you hear somebody talking about a movie, right? And then you go somewhere else, you hear somebody talking about a movie. By the time you get to the 7th person, you're going to go see that movie. Yeah. Because randomly, it's like, well, if these 7 people saw it, then, you know, and they recommended it without even talking to me directly, without soliciting to me, then, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance. So with Flat Earth, come on, we have permeated. It was too late. By the time we ran again from 2015 to 2018, unchecked, I mean, just running ripshot over the internet. It was too late. I think it went systemic to where now, no matter what platform comes out, whether it be TikTok or Instagram or BitChute or Bride or Rumble or whatever it is, it immediately gets flooded with Flat Earth videos because it doesn't take long for the kids to figure out. Remember, we're generations in now, right? Where the kids are like, oh, it gets clicks and lots of people like arguing with each other in chat room. I'm going to do that. And they do because we've now given social media so much credibility that, you know, or clout that people want, that it's like anything to do it. So it's like, great, fantastic, go nuts with it.
I feel like in a lot of circles it's like social suicide to talk about in some circles.
In some circles,
I've been in like a room. I'm not even a flat earther. I'm like on the fence. I love the theory. I would love for it to be true.
Sure.
And I'm always looking into it, and I'm always back and forth. I go, you know, one year I'm convinced, and the next year I'm caught on one leg's over the fence on either side. You know, I'm a moon landing denier, and
okay. Let's go with the moon landing
of the whole thing. You know,
the moon landing for me is my biggest litmus test, which is if I'm talking to anybody, that's the first thing I go. It's like, do you believe the Americans went to the moon? And if they say without hesitation, you know, just looking up at the sky, you know, it's like those brave boys, you know, and a single tear goes down their face and you can hear music behind them. Yeah. Then, you know, the Star Spangled Banner, then it's like, no, you're probably not going to get anywhere. Yeah. However, that being said, it has been so many years, which is why Artemis, God bless you, Artemis, you gave us so much. You know, it's 54 years between missions, right? Apollo 17 to now, 54 years. That is so long. Which is Artemis which is why, again, I said last year, I said, no, they're going this year because it's America 250. Should have worn my America 250 hat. which is again, America 250. We're going for broke all the way on. We're trying to reestablish the myth of American dominance. I mean, it's there, but you know what I mean, right? It's
UFC at the White House, baby.
Oh man, we have been doing stuff this year that would only happen this year, and I firmly believe that they thought there was going to be bigger distractions, because once I saw those astronauts on Time magazine, I'm going, oh no, they're launching. They're going to do it this year. Now, granted, it was a crap mission because it was 10 days of some of the work. I mean, they gave us the bare minimum, absolutely the bare minimum, and they made. I mean, in all fairness, you know, let's say 10 days worth of live feed, and they made maybe a dozen mistakes, which isn't terrible if you're doing a stage production. It's not awful, but in the internet, it's still a dozen mistakes. And you should remember, it's live, it's real, so you shouldn't have any. Right. So why did you have any mistakes at all? And it's like, okay. So because of that, sorry, back to you, which is, think about this. If Apollo was fake, right?
Which it was.
Why would anything be real? You don't. It's the rule. One of the rules of crime. It's like, if you're going to shoot one guy, you might as well shoot them all.
Well, what most people say is the reason for that was the space race, American dominance. We had to get that one under the belt. Sure. And I don't believe that. I'm a NASA denier, but I'm saying that's go back what people say. Is that what had to be fake? You know?
I know some of the older people definitely. Would you go back at them and say, fine, Google of the space race and look at the images from Time magazine from the 60s, which was, remember, there was another term. There was astronauts and there was cosmonauts, the Russians. And remember, it was a neck and neck thing, supposedly. That it wasn't a space race. It was, at one point, again, we get there in 1969, and then the Russians just quit. And it's like, I'm sorry. Look, I follow a little bit of what Russia does. When have you known Russia to quit anything?
I think they discovered the Van Allen belt, and they were like, well, that's the wrap on that.
Yeah, that must be it. Yeah, Van Allen. Well, I'm sorry. That's one more thing with Artemis, which was the Orion Trial by Fire video from 2014, where they said, well, no, we're going to do only unmanned stuff because we haven't solved the radiation problem from the Van Allen belts.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, here we are, 2026. It's like, oh no, we're going through them. Really, what shielding are you using? Crickets. Nobody talks about it. It's like, wait, no. What shielding are you using for the radiation? Because you remember, only gold and lead and water, which are all really heavy, only that stops radiation. So what'd you use to stop the radiation? No one will address it. No one will address it. And the old things still apply. The reason why Artemis our community can take credit for this, because we front loaded so many biases against NASA that by the time Artemis launched, everyone was just staring at the screen, waiting for him to screw up. And when they did, it's like, there you go. I mean, we it's like no surprises here. Nobody was shocked in our community. It's like, well, we knew because we've been harping on it for so long.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your community, again, flat Earth, you know, it's for people that don't believe in it. When you say flat Earth, it conjures up an image of a flat piece of paper, obviously, right? But that's But again, this is just a devil's advocate question, because I do believe in a flat, fixed plane. But some critics say that flat Earth research begins with a conclusion. There it is.
Yeah.
Begins with a conclusion and then looks for supporting evidence. How do you avoid confirmation bias in your own work?
I disagree with that statement in that nobody gets into flat Earth, and I mean nobody. I mean, every once in a while I'll run into a woman that just flips in 20 minutes for whatever reason. I don't know how they do it. But it took me 9 months. Every person that I knew that got into flat Earth started in the negative, started in the hole, which was flat Earth is dumb. I'm going to lean on science, and I'm going to really lean on NASA to prove otherwise. And so when you start there, again, I was the guy. You know, I literally had world maps framed surrounding my living room. I collected antique globes. There was nobody that liked the whole globe icon more than I did. And when I got into it, it's like, well, NASA will save me. All I have to do is go into this giant warehouse of boxes that say NASA evidence. I'll just pull starting off the shelf and pulling more off the shelf. It's like, why isn't there anything in these freaking boxes? Why is there just some pieces of packing popcorn? And then eventually you run out of boxes and you realize it's like, wait a minute, why are we believing this in the first place? So no, we don't start out saying that flat Earth is a great thing. We start out saying that flat Earth is stupid. And then which is why I said when I tried to prove, which is why I say I'm trying to prove the globe in a court of law, right? And I couldn't anymore. I could not prove the globe anymore. And so I finally I flipped the other side. It's like, oh, no, okay. I'm going to say it's flat. And now I'm going to put the burden of proof on the globe. And well, here's a great example. And you could throw this back at anybody that talks about that, which is the George Orwell quote, which I love so much. In 1946, he wrote this little thing. He was talking about how people believe in whatever science says, no matter what, because we shortchange our own intellect. And it's like, well, the person in the lab coat is obviously smarter than me, therefore I should believe them, right? And he goes, when you ask anybody on the street why the world is a globe, they say, well, we know. We know. It's a given, like in algebra, right? And he's like, really? How do you know? And then it starts grinding a little bit, because then they realize it's not that they know, they were told. And there's a very different thing. Just because you were told, and your father and your grandfather, and going back generation after generation, that it was a globe, why do you think it's a globe? And remember, he wrote this in 1946. NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. So how did everybody in the street, everybody in the world know it was a globe? It was because they were told. And then I throw back the other thing, which we've been using more and more recently. Credit to David Weiss for this and Witsit, which is, you ask that person, it's like, really? You think it's a globe, right? Fine. How fast is it spinning? How fast is it going around the sun? How fast is that solar system flying through the galaxy, and so on, right? Why don't you know these answers to these questions? And if you don't, why are you defending it? Why are you defending the globe where you don't even know your own model? I know your model better than you know your model, and you're defending it just because you saw this in your classroom, right, sitting in the corner of your classroom from first grade up until you graduated from high school, doesn't mean it's true. It was just there. And think again, it was the power of conditioning. Remember, this also sits under the American flag in the classroom.
And when did they use the globe on the Universal Studios? At every movie, they have the
going all the way back into the 30s.
Yeah,
they had that globe in the class. You're right, Universal Studios, and it was a biplane back in the day. I mean, way back before there was even jets. So it was a biplane, and I try to remind people. I go, that little icon, that little toy there, has been such a powerful force. Think about the American flag. You put that in the corner of a classroom, and there's some kids that graduate, they're going, I've been staring at that. That's where I live. I'm willing to defend it. You know what? I'm going to go to the nearest recruiting office. And they recruit just because they've been seeing that flag. It's not an accident, over and over and over and again. Globe, same sort of thing. I have seen that in my classroom for the last 12 years. You know what? Intellectually, I'm willing to defend it. I may know nothing about it. In fact, the ignorance, of Americans, which is, I've been staring at this globe for years and years. Can you even point out 10 countries on that globe at all? No, you just know when you spin it, you put your finger on something, you can't pronounce the name, and you just walk away.
Well, what has surprised you the most over the years about the people that have reached out to you over the subject, like supporters, skeptics, people who are just curious? What has surprised you the most about it?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. Surprised me the most, the wide range of how long it takes them to flip. I've seen people take, I've obviously seen people that never flip, the people that get stuck. So it's the range of acceptance. So there's 5 stages of acceptance, right? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And that when you were faced with some life-changing paradigm, like the shape of the world, that has such a wide range of times tied to it. There's some people that never get denial and anger, never, and those people because they're usually dedicated troll channels against flat Earth. But there's other people, like in my case, I took way longer than most. I took 9 months, but that's, I think, because I had less content to work with. Other people I've seen turn in less than a day. The average person anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. But that's the only thing that really surprised me. Everything else has been pretty much what I expected. We cover the wide range. Oh, I'm sorry. One thing does surprise me a little bit, which is how many women were in it. Which is when I do conferences or meetups, there's a 30-40% of the audience are women. And I'm going, wow, why is that? And I ask them, I go, why are you here exactly? Normally, it's the conspiracy world is mostly men, who talk in low tones. We should overthrow the government and let's talk like Batman. And the women that are there, it's like, no, flat Earth is a message of hope. And I go, really? Why? And they go, well, because it was built and it was created, and it was created, and it was created just for us. And that's a hopeful thing. Meaning we have a purpose. We have something to look forward to. Whereas everything else, all the other conspiracies are dark and sinister potentially. And so, but those same women, because the internet is still kind of toxic, it's tough to be a woman content creator out there. Most of them won't make channels. I can count, I think, in less than 2 hands on the bigger channels in Flat Earth that are tied to women, because there's just a bias against them. They don't get taken seriously anyway. But those are the big things that have kind of surprised me over the years. Other than that, no, pretty much what I expected. Other than, sorry, one more thing. I thought there would be more people that cracked that didn't. Kind of like the opposite of the Milgram experiment. That shock experiment where you put someone in the other room then you turn up the voltage, but you can't see them getting shocked, and you find out that 60% of the people that walk in will shock a random stranger to death. Right? Now, what you didn't know is that the scientists, when they set up that experiment the first time, thought it'd be only like 4%, and it turned out to be 60. Right? And we thought at one point, I'm going, there's got to be like 2 or 3% of the people that get into Flat Earth. It's gonna, their heads are gonna crack open like walnuts, and they're gonna lose their minds. It never happened. We've never had a flat earther, turn into something, where they're wearing a flat earth shirt, running, blowing up a building or crashing a plane or anything. I mean, I've been doing this now for 11 years. We've never even had someone in a meetup or a conference go off the freaking rails, because for whatever reason, when the universe simultaneously gets shrunk down from a massive universe to a studio apartment like this, it also creates this comfort zone that it's like, oh yeah, it's a giant studio apartment, but it's pretty nice. And it's
right.
And people they get claustrophobic, but then it evaporates really, really quickly. And so it's almost a 0% chance, I mean, knock on wood, that'll never happen. But so far the odds have been in our favor. So that's been great.
Awesome.
Mark, I had a question for you, technical question, which is, this is part of the thing where like I keep going back and forth, and the whole thing is like, things like this, the red ring laser. So how is that explained away where it picks up?
The drift. The drift.
How is that?
It's not red ring. It's just a laser. Ring laser.
Ring laser. Yeah.
Ring
not
laser.
red.
So the ring laser experiment that was in Behind the Curve, it's not explained away. It's a push, which is, does the ring laser show that there's a 15-degree drift?
I just never got that. I never saw that again in anything other than that.
Well, yeah. Why would you? One, most people don't understand it anyway.
Yeah.
Two, because and one, ring lasers is so freaking expensive. I wouldn't have spent the money on it, but whatever. They can do what they want.
Yeah.
You want to throw, what was it, 20 grand? 20 grand on a ring laser for experiment that's going to show you 15-degree drift. So the question then becomes, here's what it proves. The stars are moving at 15 degrees per hour, right? Drifting at 15 degrees per hour. What's moving? Are the stars moving, or are we moving?
Right.
The ring laser is not going to tell you one way or the other. It's just going to tell you that there's a drift, right? And that's the old argument. It's been the oldest argument, which is, are the stars moving or are we moving? Up until relatively recently, we've always said the stars were moving, not us, right? And then when we got into the heliocentric, when all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's a planet, therefore we're moving, not the stars, then that's what happened. However, when you type in ancient cosmology into Google, everybody drew the same thing. Everybody drew a snow globe with the stars going over the top. I don't care what culture it was. Don't get me started on the Greeks. Screw the Greeks. Everyone drew the same thing. It didn't matter. So if everybody in all the different parts of the world drew the same thing, that's what they went with. I think this world deliberately, whoever was the administrator, superintendent over this world, deliberately put in the globe model as the illusion, because If you don't do that, if you don't help whoever, I don't care if it was Copernicus, whoever you helped out in science, you had to build the foundation of science. But if you don't build the globe model, you run into the problem of the Tower of Babel thing, because eventually, remember, the old stories was there was an edge to the earth. You lived in a snow globe and there was the edge of the earth. But until you had the internal combustion engine and pressurized aircraft, who the hell cares? You're not going out there. And there's no, again, deliberately, no animal life, no plant life, super dangerous to go with ships, really, horrible to go. So the which I talked about in the clues, which is the genius move was, you say there is no edge. There's no edge to go to. You're in a globe. It's like you're like being an ant on an apple. You can go round and round and round all your time. You're never going to find an edge. You just tell people there is no fence, there is no wall, there is no edge. And it worked, because the natural reinforcement of Antarctica, the outer edge, which is just screams go away. Think about this from back in the day, really all the way up until pressurized aircraft isn't even 100 years old yet, right? So think about back in the day, which is you're going out to Antarctica, or the outer marker, right? If water gets colder and colder, you see icebergs. Most captains are like, screw this, I'm turning around, right? Let's say you bypass the icebergs, you get to the ice pack, you bypass that, you get onto the snowy, you go up the wall, the coastline, which is this horrible ice sheet of ice. It's not Game of Thrones high, but it's pretty high. And you get up there, and then the whole continent slopes up to, like, the average height is 14,000 feet. Well, altitude sickness kicks in at half that. Right? And it just screams go away. You don't have to have signs that say keep out, and big frost giants and stuff like that, with axes at the edge. The whole place has a negative reinforcement that says go away.
Yeah, me and David just did an episode on Admiral Byrd and high jump and all that.
There you go.
For that whole
area. Which was fascinating. I would love to know the rest, the true story. If I ever get my time machine fixed, I am going back and I want to find out, because it is the whole Nazi story of, the Nazis had a base there. Of
New
course,
Schwabenland.
Yeah, New Schwabenland. Of course they would. The Indiana Jones was not a movie,
right?
It was, and you got to remember, when it comes to there's why the saying is all's fair in love and war. The Germans were under they're very, very practical when it comes to that. If they know there is a magic object out there, I don't care if it's Gollum's ring, or if it's Harry Potter's wand, or if it's whatever. If you think you can turn the tide of the war, oh no, you're sending people to go get it.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't care what sort of rumor or myth. If it's verified by even a couple people, it's like, no, and kill everybody on the way. We don't care. And so when it came down to Antarctica, it was like, if they knew there were remnants of a civilization, the story I love, and I hope it's true, is that they asked for asylum when they were down there, when Admiral Byrd was coming for them. They went to the civilization and they said, look, can you help us out of here? Can you help us out? And, ancient civilization is like,
they went to the master.
Well, whoever it was.
That's what they call them in
sure. And they treated it like a junior high dance, which was, okay, we'll give you asylum, but you can't come back. It's like, once you leave the gymnasium, that's it. You're not going back in, because that's the rules. That's just how it is. We will give you asylum, but you're not going to be able to, do your warring ways that you were used to. And that was it. And then they chased Admiral Byrd and his crew away. It's like, nope, you can't have them. They already asked for asylum. I mean, come on, it's what we do here. Somebody asks for asylum, somebody goes up to our embassy. It's like, they are protected. But at that point, you're asylum. And it's like, oh no, we've got you at that point. So sorry, I ramble. Go ahead.
No, I only had a couple questions. I mean, that was one thing I never followed up on, and I never heard anything else about it. So I was wondering what the perspective was on that.
Oh, what finally happened? Which part?
With that laser thing, the experiment.
Oh, the ring. I'm sorry. Back to the ring laser. It's just a drift. Look,
it's just any troll. You're just saying it's picking up the drifting of the sky, not the earth.
It's picking up the drift. It's just okay. It leads back to the original argument, which is
the sky is moving around.
We say the sky is moving. They say the earth is moving.
Right.
Who's going to prove different? And then you have to loop back. Right. It's like, well, NASA. It's like, oh, don't get me started there again, because you can't, because NASA's not, their track record isn't great.
I agree with you. My follow up was like, is there a thing that you can point to that if someone said, or if someone asked you, what would it take for you to quit, or what would it take for you to not believe what you believe? I've been asked a bunch of times about that in different areas, and it always takes me a while to come up with an answer. But
no, there's two quick things. I've never changed from these over the years, which is one, and again, they didn't do it with Artemis, and they can't. I know they can't because you can't. Which is first thing, show me any 4K footage or 8K or whatever you got nowadays. Put it on the capsule, right? Put it on the capsule, point it down at Earth, send that baby out of orbit. Eventually, what'll happen is the Earth will form into a globe like it does in the movies, and it'll form into a globe and it'll go away. It didn't happen with Mercury or Gemini or Apollo or that stupid Tesla Roadster in space. And it absolutely should have happened there because that thing was supposedly going to Mars. And it's like, we're going to Mars. Turn off the cameras. It's like, why would you turn off the cameras? Like, oh no, we don't need them anymore. It's like, what do you mean? Their cameras are running fine. Well, you got low battery? What's happening? Hey, it's like, no, we're just sending it to Mars. Bullshit. And then it definitely didn't happen with Artemis. That'd be the first thing I would do, right? And if you could do it, if you would allow NASA to do it. The other thing, because I had to come up with something that wasn't NASA based, mostly NASA based, which is the spacesuit challenge. And I put that out there for years. It's still open if anyone wants to call me, which is loan me a spacesuit from any era, because no spacesuit, by the way, has ever killed anyone ever from any era. It's like, wow, that's lucky. So loan me a spacesuit, put me in a vacuum chamber from any university, and then crank it up. Crank up the vacuum chamber, take it to 0 atmospheres,
right?
And tell me what happens. Tell me how the parade suit doesn't turn into a what I said, parade suit, space suit turns into a parade float, and I just don't tip over and explode and die. Right? And there was a guy actually wrote me recently. He goes, "Well, what if the spacesuit was covered in Kevlar? It wouldn't explode." I go, well, no, it wouldn't explode, but I wouldn't be able to move anything. It might as well just be a space shell at that point. There's no way I'd be able to move anything. The reason why they won't do it, and I put this out there for years. I mean, that's cheap. That's easy to do, right? First off, look up.
And they can get rid of you, you know?
Well, I also said at one point, and I'm willing to do it myself, but I said, put somebody in another suit right across from me. But they won't do it. Find me, you can look it up on YouTube. It's amazing how few videos you have of people supposedly in spacesuits in a vacuum. Amazing, because not only should you be testing the spacesuits all the time, pressure checking them all the time, but you should also be pressure testing the capsule. Right? The capsule should also be in a vacuum chamber, because like anything, and you should crank that thing up and it should not explode. You should make sure, and you probably should have an astronaut in a spacesuit in it when you're doing that. That's never ever happened. And the reason why they won't do it, now you could try to cheat, right? Look, I already thought about this, and because I've said it on there, they're never going to do it, which is you could cheat and put me in a chamber and then hit the green light. And it's like, oh, you're in a vacuum. Like, really?
Right.
How do I know I'm in a vacuum? Right? How do I know? There's 3 things, costs all of like a couple bucks worth of materials. One, a balloon, with just a single breath of air. Just put that in there. It'll expand and expand and expand. 2 would be a cup of water, just a cup of water with tap water, room temperature. Water boils. It will start separating in a vacuum at room temperature. It doesn't heat up or anything. It just starts separating into oxygen and hydrogen, right? And then finally, a bell. That's the simplest thing at all. Because remember the old experiments, if you remember back in high school, if you had a professor that was interesting, a bell doesn't make any sound in a vacuum because there is nowhere for the sound waves to travel. Right? There's no medium for the sound waves to travel, which leads me to one more thing. So those 3 things, no one has ever even suggested me getting in a vacuum chamber. You want to wipe out the guy from Flat Earth? That's how easy it'd be to do it. No one will ever do it because they can't.
It's funny that no one's ever reached out to you about that. It'd be so simple.
Well, if you want to kill me, sure. But at that point, it's like, because I've asked at one point, which is, okay, tell me what magical thing in the backpack of the Apollo astronauts counteracts the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
I don't care about the oxygen and nitrogen. Well, I do, or the carbon scrubbers that I also do, or the heating or cooling or anything. What magical thing counteracts the vacuum of space? And even if you can tell me, by the way, that make up some microprocessor technology, it's like not in 1969. You could. Right. Sorry, let me lead one more thing here on the table, because this kind of segues into it, which is, okay, so a bell doesn't make sound in a vacuum chamber, right? because there's no medium for it to travel in, right? Sound cannot travel without something. Like right now, we're talking right now, but if I took all the air out of this room, you wouldn't be able to hear me because the sound can't travel through nothing.
Right.
You know what else can't travel through nothing? Thrust.
Yeah, right.
And by that, I mean, you can't push off against nothing.
Right.
That is physics 101, which is and again, because the average person can't test it because we don't have a vacuum chamber to walk around in, we walk around, our feet push off the floor. When you're swimming, your arms and your legs push off the water, and airplanes can only fly so high because remember, it's pushing off of a fog, right, so quickly that it can gain lift. But planes can only go so high because once it starts running out of fog to push off of, there's nothing for it to push off of anymore, which is why people would be like, if they could, it could just fly into space, but it can't fly into space because there's nothing to push off of, which then leads to the question, let's say you could shoot a rocket into the vacuum of space, right? Oh, you might be able to shoot a rocket into space. What happens when you get there? How you turning? How you slowing down? How you speeding up? How you doing anything that they do in Star Trek and Star Wars and any of this other crap? Not without some sort of unified field technology with
thrusters.
Thrusters. This is
impulse engines.
Yeah.
It absolutely does not work. I don't care. Mythbusters, by the way, I think was compromised a long time ago because they did a little experiment with a rocket in a vacuum, and I know full well they cracked the seal on that thing because I think it was like a little bottle rocket or something like that. And this little like a fish tank vacuum chamber. It's like that's a bunch of crap. You can't explain it. You cannot push off. And I know there's people that like in Wall-E, the animated thing. Well, if you have a fire extinguisher, it's like anything compressed gas. It's like no, it can't push off against nothing.
Right. It's a great point. And getting back to the first thing you said too, I wrote that down, the spacesuits in the vacuum of space.
That's part of your challenges, right?
That's awesome.
Sorry, Dave. That was part of your challenges, right? What the spacesuit one?
Yeah. Kill Mark in a spacesuit. That's the challenge.
No, I mean in your challenge video series, didn't you have the spacesuit towards the end?
Yeah, I did. It was called the
or clues rather. Sorry.
Well, yeah, for want of a nail, which basically said this, which was if the spacesuit can't work, then anything that ever shows a spacesuit can't work. Which means if one thing's a lie, it's all a lie. And which is why I will say this, I give credit to whoever came up with the soft spacesuit idea, brilliant idea. And it really was, because you can look this up. The early spacesuits, you can look up early spacesuits in the 1960s or 50s and NASA, and they were metal and like aluminum and plastic, and they looked horrible and they looked so uncomfortable. It's like, you're not gonna be able to climb anything. It looked like a B movie thing. And then somebody said, let's just do soft suits. And it's like, what do you mean? Let's do soft suits? It's like, kids don't get taught physics. Physics clubs, very, very small. They're never going to figure it out. And the physics students will be like, oh, they figured out a way. They'll just wave it off because the soft suits don't make sense. If the longer you look at it, the more you realize the soft suit doesn't make sense. That was brilliant. Whoever came up with it, again, the line, sorry, one more thing I want to throw out there, which is when I ask people from outside America, inside America, I get it. America's the greatest. Of course, we can go to the moon. We can do anything. Right? But if you're outside of America, why do you think the Americans went to the moon? Everyone says the exact same thing. They say, well, it was on your television. It was on the news, your news. You would never lie anything about anything like that. And I just stare at them. I go, so America gets accused of lying about all sorts of stuff all the time, but not that, right? That you're pretty good on. Yeah, that you're willing to believe, but everything else we do, foreign policy, oh no, you're going to shoot that full of holes, whatever.
The thing I was going to say, the first thing you said, which makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
The rocket leaving the atmosphere, of all the technological advancements that we have, of all the video cameras and the technological leaps that we've made in recording media, you can't put every single film footage that we have is grainy, or it's a 2-second shot. I mean, that to me is the most simplest experiment. Put a couple of GoPros on the rocket and let's see it leave, and then leave the atmosphere, and then now let's watch the Earth turn into a globe. They can't do it.
Oh hell, they could even do something easier than that, which was, and I told them last year, I go, Artemis should be just bristling with cameras. right? They're cheap,
Right.
they're small, they're durable. I will say this, as far as the future goes, our electronic technology is very, very good. Our camera technology especially.
Yeah.
So when they kept showing, and I know they had to, because this is what you did in the 60s and 70s, no stars in space, no stars in space, no stars in space, ever. It's just blackness, except for a few astronauts like Don Pettit. It's like, oh no, I saw stars. It's like, whatever.
Right.
And it's like, even if you could say that the human eye can't see stars, our cameras, our phone cameras are so good now that you can change like predator vision to any mode you want, and you could eventually see stars. Again, you want to blame the exposure settings in the 60s? I'll give that to you for free. Fine. But in 2026, no. And you didn't even try. Didn't even try to flip through the modes. It's like, oh no, it's just blackness all the way through. Because if you did, it would really cast a doubt on the previous stuff, which is, and also I think they're still scared because the stars, it's not like science fiction movies where you can put any stars anywhere you want because it doesn't matter, because the constellations are meaningless in space movies, right? But in real life, the constellations are fixed and they're exactly in the same place. So the belt of Orion, I've said this for years and years, the belt of Orion during a specific time and day has to be in that spot. Has to be in that spot, the date and time. All it takes is one nerd with a slide rule to look at that thing. It's like, oh, that shouldn't be there. No, Ryan should be behind him. No, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. It should be absolutely behind him. And that's all it would take. And everything on the internet sticks. And that's why they don't do it. Even now, even with supercomputers, they won't do it. They won't take the chance because they know some intern's going to screw it up.
Well, they can't agree on whether they can see stars now anyways up there. Every time someone asks them the question, they look at each other like, can we?
Yeah. By the way, that was not lost on me. It's like, really, when the Canadian was on camera, like, how were you not briefed on this stars thing? You've had forever to prepare for this, and you start talking about stars, and all of a sudden the guy, Reed, the guy next to him, was like, "Shut up," and she over the both of them are looking at it. It was almost a mirror of.
He went around the whole room like, what did we do? What can we? Yeah. What do we say?
Yeah, it was amazing to me that they're still fumbling through that. And I know people say, well, they're doing it deliberately. It's like, I don't know if they are. I really don't. I just think that there's a lot of pressure on them. My criticism, and this is not, well, it's been more critical recently, which is the biggest Achilles heel for NASA is they keep trying to do stuff live.
Right.
And as anybody knows in media, you do not do it live unless you absolutely have to. If you want, look, there's going to be mistakes if you do it live. There's just no way around it. That's why almost no television is done live. But NASA keeps doing it. It's almost like they're addicted to doing it live. It's like, we got to talk to the school kids. We got to talk to that network person. We got to talk. It's like, no. Every time you do it live, you run into the risk of having a Canadian screw up, or having a Nutella jar fly through screen, or having no shadow for the plushie ball on her leg, and just goes on and on. It's like, you're going to run into problems. So don't do it live. If you, and which is why I will say this, what made me smile more than anything about Artemis, once they were done with those 10 days, because remember, the tricks and the technology hasn't changed much in the last 10 years I've been doing this. I said, wow. I go, you have basically guaranteed to everybody, and I think that's already been canceled now as we speak, you are never walking on the moon again, ever, because you cannot fake it. No. The internet, doing a flyby of the moon, fine. There's some people will watch it, some people won't. You say you're going to land on the moon, everybody's going to tune in. I mean, everybody.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so you try to fake it now, you could not. I mean, seriously, I've said this for years, which is, you could back up a dump truck of money to me and say, Mark, can you help us fake the moon? I go, get that truck out of here. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I could have the ghost of Stanley Kubrick sitting right next to me. I still wouldn't do it. Because one mistake, and the moon, doing something from an inside of a capsule, and you still made a dozen mistakes, right? Doing something on the moon is so much bigger. There's so many more things that could go wrong. And by the way, where are you going to land? You better not land near the Sea of Tranquility, where our other stuff is still there, where the flag is, because that stuff's going to line up perfectly. And then what do? You're going to make the same mistakes. Remember, the resolution has got to be better than it was.
That's right.
You got no. So no, they're never going to do it. So this was it was a windfall for us.
I am going to send you those papers from that guy Foster that the Academy sent me from Australia.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah, we do have to end somewhere. I would love to talk till 2 a.m. because I do believe that we can. Jody, do you have any more questions for Mark?
I just I covered everything that I wanted to ask you. I mean, I got a million questions, but my brain is kind of scattered.
Well, Mark, for someone who's never looked into your work before, where would you suggest that they begin, and what do you think is the most important question they should ask themselves? For my final question.
Okay, where to find my stuff? I'm not gonna. I mean, obviously, through my stuff, you're gonna find a lot of other people. So just Google Flat Earth Mark, and it'll lead you to wherever it's going to lead you to. If you don't use Google, use something else. There's a bunch of stuff out there. I don't promote it as much. I promote it on my channel. I probably should promote it more during the interviews, which is we have a wonderful app that has developed over the last decade called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Okay.
Got all sorts of fun stuff in it. But if you don't want to buy the app for $3, just start hunting around. The key takeaway here is everything that I've been telling you, take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe, again, why I got to practice what I preach here. Don't believe it just because I say it. Believe it because you did your own research. Go out there and try to prove it for yourself. Prove the globe for yourself. Don't even prove the flat earth. Go out and say, I want to prove the globe. Where would you go? You're going to lean on NASA? Go ahead, try. But eventually you're going to have to look at it objectively and say, why do I believe in NASA? Why do I believe in this? Why do I believe in this? The flat earth model is a lot easier to understand. It is way more efficient on all levels. And last point is figure out why you have such a belief in a globe. If you don't understand, some of the questions I asked, which was how fast the Earth, spinning, how fast is it traveling through the solar system and all that. If you don't know the answers to those questions, why are you defending it? Then, if you think long and hard and be humble about it, because it's going to be frustrating. Sorry, last thing, which is if you like your life the way it is right now, if you wake up and do everything is awesome, don't do it. Do not look into this, because there is a red pill, blue pill moment when you get down this road, again, like Cypher and the other people, which is you get to the point, you will not be able to turn back. And it will be kind of scary and frustrating, and you will accuse me of ruining your life. You won't be that mad. You're not going to come to my house or anything. But other people have been kind of pissed off. They're like, damn it. Because once you know, you can't unknow it. And so be careful. Again, if life is fine for you, great. If you don't want to deal with it, you got bigger things to worry about, great. Don't even worry about it. But if this keeps up you up at night like a marble in a paint can, well, you're gonna have to deal with it one way or the other. So we'll see what happens.
Mark, I just want to commend you for being so accessible.
Yes.
I can't think of any other person that I've ever heard that leaves their information out there and is so willing to talk to people to discuss any topic, especially one that's as
polarizing
as this one. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you picking up the phone, man.
I thought that it was a smart move. No, I didn't. I thought it was a dumb move when I first did it. But I've been lucky in that people were fairly nice, and the trolls haven't been nearly as bad to me as they have been to other people. Because I'm not off-putting. I'm not angry. I'm not yelling at people. Again, if I'd pushed back like really hard, doing the whole passive aggressive thing, I think I'd get more trolls. But I believe that you get what the universe, you put out, and you get back from the universe what you put out there. And I'm trying to be as sincere as I can. So yeah, if anyone wants to get a hold of me, I'm easy to find. All you have to do is go to my contact. It's not a joke. My contact information is in the body of every single email I put. That includes my phone number, my email, my physical address. my social security number, all my passwords, all that.
Mark, honestly, we thank you again for the knowledge, and you're a very well-researched individual. So we would love to have you on again. I mean, we don't even have to talk about Flat Earth. We just like to have a conversation in general. That'd be awesome.
I'll talk about whatever topic you guys want.
I'd like to talk movies with you. Your movies.
Oh, dude, I could do movies forever.
Movies.
Mark, I went to this is originally what what I wanted to be the Oddcast about was movies. I went to school for 4 years. I wanted to be a director. I got my degree and everything else. And now that's my passion, really. I just love movies, but we can get into that another time. But listen, what I really wanted to do is, if it's okay with you, I wanted to pray you out. I wanted to pray for you before we end. That's awesome. Oh, Lord Jesus, we thank you for the time, and we thank you for this man's life, Lord. And we ask that you bless him up in his endeavors. We ask that you bless him up in his adventures down the road. And Lord, we ask that you give him a hedge of protection around him, Lord, as he travels and as he speaks. And again, Lord, we thank you for the time. We ask that you bless Mark Sargent up, Lord, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Awesome.